Yeah, we're waiting on the high sign over there.
Amazing how technology speeds our life up.
Yep.
At times.
Good morning and welcome to the regular meeting of Tuolumne Utilities District for November 14th, 2023. And Director Boatwright, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, and indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, public forum. We'd like to welcome the members of the public who have taken the time to attend this meeting and provide comments on matters related to district business. Any member of the public may address the board relating to any matter within the board's jurisdiction. This need not be related to any item on the agenda. However, the board cannot act on an item unless it was noticed on the agenda. Persons speaking during the public comment will be limited to 5 minutes, or depending on the number of persons wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. Is there anybody in the audience here who'd like to speak? Seeing none. Corey, is there anybody on the website? Okay, then we'll go ahead and close the public forum. Melissa, item 2.
Okay, consent calendar. Item number 1, minutes of the regular board meeting of October 24th, 2023, and special board meeting of October 26th, 2023. Item number 2, approval of reimbursement claims for director's statement of meetings attended and or travel expenses and claim summary for October 2023. Item number 3, reject claim for damages, claim number 23-06, Frontier claimant.
Okay, anybody want to pull any of the items on the consent calendar? Director Bingham.
I'd like to pull the claim summary, please.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll vote on all 3 items when we get done there, if that's okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So at the bottom of page 6 and the top of page 7, D&M Traffic Service Incorporated. That's quite a bit of money for handling traffic service. It's over $20,000. Anybody know anything about that?
Well, I can tell you it's part of the Mount Provo transmission line project, both on Mount Provo Road and Confidence Road.
Was that for both what TUD was doing as well as the contractor?
No contractor, just TUD, right? We didn't have a contractor.
There was one down on Phoenix.
But this is Confidence Road. Oh,
Provo.
well, I see Mount Provo and Confidence Road traffic control.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask a question? So both of those, just to be clear, both of those projects are TUD projects with no outside contractor participating. We're doing it all in-house with our in-house guys.
That's correct. And I believe this will be covered by the grant. Not sure, but yeah.
Okay.
Covered by the grant.
Thank you.
Further question? What's the timeline on that? Is that a monthly billing or is it per project?
I'm sure it's per project. We don't have anybody like on standby or anything like, so that's the project cost, the one time.
Okay, so
It may have lasted more than a month. I don't really know, but
Yeah, generally what you're seeing, Steve Sheffield, your finance director, the claim summary is going to show checks that were actually written. So there were 2 checks here, one, and it was related to Confidence Road traffic, the other one, Mount Provo. So typically on these, it's the whole project. It's not, again, this wouldn't be an ongoing one. It would just be when the project's completed, they give us their final bill for flagging, which I'm assuming is based on number of people, number of hours, time of day, how many days they were out there. These were both, sizable projects that required extensive shutdowns.
Yeah, and that's where I was going, Mr. Sheffield, was when you show a timeline with something like this or bring up a timeline, it makes the value for the dollars, much more worthwhile.
Sure,
Thank
if need be, I could pull the invoice and report that separately, but that's what the claim summary is indicating.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, Director Ringen.
Okay, a little further down on page 7, Dell Marketing LP. What is Dell Latitude 5340?
Computer.
It's laptop.
Laptop.
A laptop computer.
Okay,
I don't know specifically who that was for, or what it was for.
Maybe it was for fires, that particular model.
Our raw water superintendent.
okay, great, thank you. Then we have also on page 7, that was my lucky page. Dell Tech Geotech. What's that? What are they doing for us?
Don, the description's reclamation, groundwater monitoring. That's a normal reoccurring,
It's been ongoing
yeah,
for years now.
Okay,
related to courts, correctly? Correct?
Mhm.
Yeah.
this one I really enjoyed, page 8. We have, where did it go? Oh, there it is. Emily got caught up in this somehow and reimbursed for breakfast burritos, $875. Huh?
Yeah, where is Emily? Just kidding. So that was Employee Appreciation, Member Water Professional Appreciation Week.
Oh,
That's how
okay.
we recognized them.
Okay, okay. Page 11, Lowe's, broken toilet. What in the world?
I think that's in our men's bathroom in the office over there. The urinal was broken.
Okay.
Catch me on a good day, like I know all this stuff.
Page 14, municipal equipment maintenance.
I'm getting there. Well, the 162 sounds like a piece of equipment. It's a backhoe or tractor, something out there. Some valve, looks like an expensive valve for one of the backhoes or something.
Okay. And let's see here. We've got, page 15. Could we please purchase a modular building and eliminate that almost $800 a month payment for rent?
We can. But let's talk a little bit later about other options. Again, this was going to be short term, and then you know what happened with PG&E. So
Yeah. Well, just, I see that every month and it's like, I just shake my head. It's like, we could have purchased one 2 times over by now, maybe 3 times.
Steve, remind me to bring this up at our managers meeting.
Yeah. I know there was an analysis when we first decided to put that building there, and those modular buildings are not cheap. So it was $800 a month for how long we're gonna do that, and we're waiting on the PG&E negotiations and some other ones on that, but I think we need to revisit it and consider what the options are for purchasing the building, building a building, where staffing's gonna go in the future. So we'll bring it back.
Great. That's it for me. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions about the consent calendar? Okay, then if I'll entertain a motion.
Any public comment?
Oh, yeah, excuse me. Sorry. Public comment? None here. How about none on the web either, Corey? Thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Melissa,
Okay, regular business, item number 4, report to the board regarding annual water wastewater capacity charge increase history.
Mr. Antonio.
Good morning, everyone. Is it green? Press the button on the top. One of these. Oh, we got these. It just means I need to get it.
All right, can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Antonio Ramirez, Engineering Services Technician here at TUD. So the item I have before you is a presentation of the water and sewer facilities that new connection is consuming. In about 2015, 2016, in the water rules and wastewater ordinance, a provision was added that allowed, that basically mandated that we adjust the capacity charges based upon inflation, basically. And so the basis for the increase, we utilize a resource called the Engineering News and Record. Engineering News and Record is basically an engineering resource. Has a variety of, Glenn, you probably know much more about it than I do. A lot of resources that the engineering department uses for design, but for also for things like this. There's a lot of data that they collect. The specific data that we're using is what's called a construction cost index, which is basically a construction related COLA. Abby, are you able to get the table up there? So as you know, we in committees, we've been discussing capacity charges again, just refreshing, kind of just everyone learning about them again. It's been a while since we've discussed them in committee. We've discussed them in the water committee, wastewater committee, and soon the ditch committee. And then I think we'll be circling back around, taking the recommendations and discussing them to the full board in the future is what I understand. In the water committee, it was recommended that when we discuss this annual increase, that we present the annual increases every July 1st to the board. Since I missed it this last one, we thought, let's catch up. Let's share what we've been doing. And then every July 1st, our first meeting in July, we'll just let you know what they've gone up to. So in this table, you'll see the blue is the water and the green is the sewer. The first thing I want to say, if you tried to do some of the math on these numbers, the dollar amounts that I show is the full amount that the customer pays. But in that are administrative fees and meter set fees, which I don't adjust for inflation. So you couldn't quite get that right. And I just wanted to kind of show you, it's not often I show exactly what the customer is paying. So I just thought it made more sense to do it that way here. If you want it broke out differently, be happy to do it. One of the things that we did in the, when this provision was approved and adopted in the water rules and wastewater ordinance, was to have a 3.5% increase so that it didn't jump up at some point, and that the increases are kind of more steady. It has been discussed that maybe potentially capping that. I don't want to get too much into that, or increasing that, I'm sorry. But I don't want to get too much into that. This is more just for historical purposes. So you'll see, in the columns, you'll see on the far left, you'll see the actual percent increases. For the most part, they've always remained under 3.5% until this last year. I think it was 4.46. So we definitely, the inflation that we all been feeling at home, definitely you start seeing in the capacity piece. You'll see if you go to the right, you'll see the increased columns. Those are the actual dollar amounts each year that they've been going up. It's a bit of an increase. Most people don't want any increase, but what is good is that, overall, since we started doing this, we have jumped up 1,000, 1,600 to 1,400. What is good about that is that we're, if we do make a change in the future and there is a jump of some sort, that the jump isn't really high. I remember when I first got here, we did make a pretty big jump, and it was, for some people, they weren't expecting it because it was fairly consistent for quite a long time. So this annual increase, I think, helps the applicants, especially developers and contractors, know that to always be asking the question, what's the new fee going to be, and be thinking about it. But the increases aren't significant, but they're enough in aggregate that they're helping us keep up. Yeah, and I think pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, be happy to answer them.
Director Balin has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Antonio. And I thought that the water committee meeting was really enlightening, and I really appreciated the calculations that the engineering folks did. These were really sound, really based on sound data, and I really appreciate that. My question to you is, I know you just mentioned that the increases were capped at 3.5. And when did that happen, and why?
So the indexing, so if you look in the footnotes, the water capacity charge indexing was adopted in October 2016. In wastewater, it was April 2015. The indexing happened at the same time. They're 3.5%, I'm sorry. So all this happened, this whole premise of the annual increase and the 3.5% cap all happened simultaneously.
So the board then agreed to cap it.
Right.
Even though it may not really represent the cost going up.
Correct.
So that can be changed.
Certainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see, I'll think of my other question. So I'm good for now.
Okay. Anybody else? Director Boatright?
Antonio, during the wastewater committee, it was really clear as far as what we went through with the construction cost. But I think it kind of slipped through. Has the administrative cost also kept up with cost increases over time?
No. So in water, it's a $240 administrative charge. In wastewater, it's $320 because there's a bit of sewer clean out inspection on it. And though the administrative fees were increased at some point, but not as part of this, I think originally they were like $100. It was about the same era, but it did jump up from 100 to 140 for water and comparatively for sewer. Whether that's kept up or not, that would be more, like a Steve question, because I don't know what our administrative costs, whether they've gone up. Presumably everything's gone up in life, but it's not something that we're adjusting here.
Okay. That would certainly seem like a component that, has part of this to make sure that we're covering the administrative side as well.
Yeah, and I think the reason they're separated is because capacity is definitely construction related, whereas the administrative probably would require a different method of increasing it, as opposed to cost of a 2x4 is, doesn't really relate to a cost of an employee.
No, I understand those. I just, would like us to make sure that we're not leaving something else behind, that, is not keeping up to date as well. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Director, I'll go back to Director Balin.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Director Boatright. Yeah, again, I think it's footnote 4, total fee amount includes water supply, treatment, storage, capital reserve, and administrative and meter set fees. But what you're saying is those have not gone up. Those have been flat. The the administrative and meter set fees have not gone up.
They're not, definitely not part of this annual adjustment. I did review the meter set fees and I have some new numbers, but they haven't, surprisingly, they haven't changed a lot. Especially for the 1-inch meter. So I expected much similar, 20–30% higher overall, but they weren't. So I looked at each part by part. And at some point when we do the water rules that I have that data and we'll freshen it up and adjust those at that time, but they haven't changed a lot. I can share it with you. I did a
Okay, well,
complete analysis of it.
To me, sounds like if the administrative and meter set fees have gone up also, because everything has gone up, that wouldn't be reflected. And Steve, would we be limited to the 3.5, or could we have those numbers reflect the actual increase of 4.46?
Yes, you can. Then the thing about capacity fees is they're completely separate from the rates that we charge. So the service charge rates have to go through the 218 base, process, need to be based on the rate study, need to be disclosed, all that. Capacity fees work a little bit different in that we need to be able to show how they're calculated, what it's based on. And that's where this concept of tying the construction cost into this engineering index would do it. We can't index rates, even though there is cost of inflation, everything else, it doesn't work the same way. Here, I think the administrative was intentionally kind of separated from that because it's not typically an inflationary item. It may be, but if you remember not that long ago, we had an MOU where employees didn't get any increase at all. So the administrative cost would not have gone up from one year to the next. But, under this concept, the capacity fees are going up each time. So we really viewed it as something that we need to look at on a regular basis, just like the setup charges. Meter costs have really not gone up that much over the last year or whatever in that. 3 years ago, yes, they went up. So those items are a small component in here. Now, the other thing to keep in mind when we're talking about these capacity charges is that they are legally restricted, meaning they have to be separately identified, they have to be separately accounted for, separately spent. And that's where we have that 66013 report each year that we recently brought to the board, showing how these are tracked and accounted for in here. So, but to directly answer your question, yes, we can look at those as often as is appropriate and see what they are. And that's what typically Antonio's doing when he puts together this projected change based on the engineering index. We will also take a look at, has administrative cost really changed? How much? Some of it, like when we went to our new software system, we actually gained efficiency as far as administrative costs, the ease of setting up a new utility account and going through the connection process and doing that. So it's a little more difficult to say what exactly is the administrative cost. One new customer might require 10 visits to Antonio. Another one might require 1 visit. So that's kind of how we tend to look at it. That helps.
Yeah, it's really helpful. I have one more for Steve.
Sure.
Okay. So, so for some reason, this thing's been capped at 3.5, but the CCI increase for 2024 is actually 4.46. So who absorbs that difference?
Well, when you say absorbs the difference, again, it's kind of like the timing of when we collect these charges and when we spend them. We may not, because of this one new account, we may not need a new tank right now. And so that new tank might be built 10 years down the road, and we're continuing to do that. So I think the cap was there really because of not wanting any significant dramatic differences. Like with COVID, who thought we'd have a cost of inflation that would jump up like we did, just like we have the same issue with payroll and MOUs. How can you project a historic 50-year high of inflation? And the idea is not to make it jump up so wildly from one to the other. And it's really not actual cost in that, like I said, we're not building it right now. It's kind of like when we look at a big CIP project, we go to bid it. Well, our engineers thought it was gonna be 20 million. And then when we go to bid it, because of COVID and everything else, it's 40 million. You can't really plan on that. So I think the cap was put in there to try and make some more consistency and not having these dramatic and wild swings going back and forth with it. But you know, it's a board decision. And at this time, I mean, I think capacity charges, just like rate increases, need to be looked at on a regular basis. Our world economy has changed dramatically, just like we're doing right now and doing these, but they're extremely time, you know, the time requirements to do a thorough study on capacity fees is dramatic and intensive. And the other thing is, you know, when you look at wastewater, we have a brand new plant. And until we're up and operating that, we're making a lot of guesstimates and estimates as far as that. And that may turn out a year from now to be a very different story. Water, I think, does need to have that looked at, but you need to go through the data, look at the cost, project the cost, and then kind of decide on it. But I don't think it's really a matter of who absorbs what. I mean, this is very separate from, nothing in here relates to pipes in the ground. Nothing in here relates to distribution. Nothing in this relates to our primary purpose of delivering water and collecting sewer and treating sewer. You know, that's what the service charges, the rates are designed to cover. This is more talking at capacity. We have capacity in our system. We're not in a situation like Pleasanton, Dublin, Lincoln, whatever, where we're having this dramatic, historic, epic growth. So we can plan it a little bit more and looking at this, but this also ties into what we keep talking about as far as consolidation and Sierra Pines and what that means. I mean, all of that ties into this as well. It's very different if we're having to maintain 11 treatment plants or if we're maintaining 6 treatment plants. I mean, those have future ramifications for generations to come. But I think, you know, again, this is what the existing rules are. The board clearly has the ability to input, change, revise, update, but based on the best information our professionals can provide you.
One advantage that I found to having a number that to the 3.5% cap is that, you know, for someone that's planning a project, just having that comfort, I can say it's this amount now, it's not going to go up more than 3.5%. And it's, you know, if they do the math themselves, it's not going to be quite right because it's a 3-year running average, but at least they can just write it down and they've got something that they can budget off of. And if your fees are a lot, you got a big commercial project, it could add up quite a bit for a large development. So having something like that, you know, I got to imagine that was some of the thinking of the engineering department, because we're always trying to provide confidence for people in their development, you know, as opposed to being ambiguous all the time. You know, they need some clarity, and that's always been an objective, I feel like, in the department. So I think those are some advantages of having some sort of cap.
Director Jacobs, you had a question?
Just tie in real quick before you go, Director Jacobs. Antonio reminded me of something, you know, not in this board's history, but previous boards. It used to be that capacity fees were collected for the whole project. So if someone came in and we're building 10 houses or 20 houses, here's the capacity fees, they need to pay it all up front. Then they would build them. Well, that was a hotly debated issue in here because of our growth and what's happening here. Really, it's more consistent or appropriate that as the connection goes into, so if you have 10 homes, one's ready, it's sold, you do that one connection, you pay that one. So the board made a conscious decision that the developers would pay us as each connection was physically connected to us. And that's the way it's been for number of years, decade plus.
No, less than a decade.
Less than a decade.
About the same time as, so I would say about, you know, 2013, maybe something like that.
Yeah, and that was a big change in here, but that's part of what ties into this cap and everything else, because, you know, you see how projects go through the county of Tuolumne. you know, somebody may start, it could be years across in there. And at one point, we did have developers wanting to lock in what the fees was. So we had some local developers who would come in and pay for the whole development just to have that capacity reserved and locked in and do that. But since then, now we're basically collecting these as each unit is put into our system. Doing that, that helps. Thank you,
Makes
Director
sense.
Jacobs.
Director Jacobs.
Thank you. For folks in the general public, it would be helpful to maybe kind of give an overview, a recap of the difference between capacity and usage fees and why they're treated differently legally and the processes involved. So I mean, we're kind of in the weeds here with the capacity issue, but help if we could just kind of give the public an overview of, okay, here's a chunk of money for capacity, here's a chunk of money for usage, and that's why we segregate them, and just kind of an overview.
Right now?
Yes.
Okay, and for anybody listening out there, this has been to the board before.
Is this part of the agenda? Are we pushing the boundaries? We are. Starting to push the boundaries. And I would suggest that we actually put this on the agenda so we can prepare for a discussion. Is that okay? Sure. And the November 28th meeting is getting full already, but we'll get it on there for you.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah, and the reason for that, I think it's so important for the public to understand. We just had a huge, quote, huge, unquote, rate increase. And why do we have to increase capacity fees?
Yeah. And all I was going to add to that is that this was an agendized item earlier, just several meetings ago. So I think anybody out there in the public on the developer side who wants to know, go to our website. You can call up the YouTube video. There was a presentation given describing exactly what the difference was between those. We also had our rate study presentations. We had 6 different ones on that. That would explain it. And the 66013 presentation is a document that spells out in 3 pages what the exact capacity fees are, how they're different from rates, and are spot on to all the questions you just had here. But really, you know, today, like I said, is just for Antonio to provide you the history of the increases and what the existing rules are in our water rules right now and wastewater.
Great. Thank you.
Director Balin?
I was just going to reiterate that, Steve. Antonio, you did a really thorough presentation on the difference between fees and charges, and that's on the YouTube. And I think that the public can be referred to that. It's because that was a public meeting. And
You can call me too.
Director Ringen?
Okay, thank you for the information, Antonio. I just want to mention that I attended both the water committee meeting and the sewer committee meeting by Zoom. And I want to compliment you on your presentation at both those, and the incredible amount of information that was passed out at those 2 committee meetings. I had no idea that this was the calculations were as involved as they are. So anyway, I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you. I get lots of support. Eric, Steve, Don, it's team effort. So, but thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I'd just like to add up just one clarification for those that may be attending or watching at home. This has nothing to do with our rates, our monthly rates. This has everything to do with new connections when you're building a house, building a new commercial building, something like that. So what Antonio was talking about and what we've been speaking about here earlier or previously has nothing to do with your monthly bill. Just want to be on record to say that so that everybody knows that up front. Okay. All right. If nothing further for Antonio, public comment, please. Nothing here.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Antonio. Appreciate it. Okay, Melissa, next item.
Okay, staff reports.
All right, I'll go first. Last week, I'm speaking for Eric Hall at the moment. Last week, Eric Hall attended a Walton County Fuel Reduction Prioritization Workshop. It was a 3-hour-long meeting over there on Stryker Court. The attendees or the speakers were primarily CAL FIRE, OES, and the Forest Service. So it was a long meeting. If I can just kind of, from Eric, it was a very good meeting. A lot of great information was shared by all of those entities. So in a nutshell, there's a lot of entities, including TUD, who have our own projects of fuels reduction, right? So it's an this is a good attempt, more than an attempt. It's an accomplishment of gathering everybody's data, what everybody has done and what everybody is proposing to do over a number of years, so we can get this all on one set of GIS mapping systems, right? So it's a lot of great information. So that's for Eric, and I wanted to go, but I had other plans to go. But what I did that's related to that is I had a meeting last Monday with Jason Kiken, the forest supervisor. And it was on this topic exactly. I have been feeling like for a couple of months now that I would like our board to get an overview of just what's going on countywide over our forests, because I know there's a lot going on there and I really can't comprehend it all. It's just too much for me to really imagine and envision. So I asked Jason Kiken to come visit with me, and he did. And he was very eager to meet with us and very eager to put on a presentation for this board. So I'm happy. Jason and I are both happy that the meeting they had the other day happened first, because they're going to update their maps here pretty soon. We have information to give still, and other entities do, to update this GIS map. So anyway, I think tentatively, Melissa, is Jason here on the 5th of January? Is that a board meeting day? Anyway, early January, he's tentatively for coming. So.
It's
Ninth.
By the 9th.
The 9th.
Okay, thank you.
A regular board meeting.
At a regular
Yes.
board meeting. And I'm trying to get as many dignitaries as possible here to kind of see this update and see what Tuolumne County is doing, and little old TUD is trying to do is more than pulling our weight here. So anyway, thank you. That's my end of my report.
Who's next? Steve? Abby?
Morning, everyone. Just, I think 2 items, but to piggyback on what Dawn just mentioned with the meeting that Eric Hall went to for the fuels management and getting those activities onto GIS maps. That's actually one activity within our current local multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan with the county. That's one of the action items from the last plan. And so that ties into just an update on that, not to sound like a broken record, but we continue our planning with the county, and now there's 25 jurisdictions within the county that have joined onto that multi-jurisdictional plan. We have a planning meeting tomorrow, November 15th, over at Stryker Court to hopefully get finalized the areas of the plan that the county maintains on past history of storm events, what the newest hazards are that haven't been previously identified, and what new mitigation plans that we all 25 jurisdictions try and work together on. Additionally, the county has public meetings that we've shared on our social media pages. They have on their OES page and also on their social media pages, but they have a public meeting on Thursday, November 16th at, it's actually via Zoom, and that's 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. And that is all, again, like I said, on their website and our social media pages. If you need help finding that and you want to attend, you just let me know. They also have another meeting on December 14th. So the timeline, we're well within the timeline that we need to get the board, your board, to approve our annex within the plan, and then ultimately the Board of Supervisors to approve theirs. You will see this item at the December 12th meeting. Also, Dory Beats from the county OES will be here to talk about their portion of the plan as well. So that should be a really good meeting, and that's just gonna be a review and discussion item only so that you guys can take a deep dive into the plan and let us know what feedback you have and if you'd like anything to be added into the plan or revised at that time. And then the last thing, just wanted to mention that Emily Long and I attended Congressman McClintock's staff office hours last Monday. They hold those every month at the Board of Supervisors chambers, and met with Matt Reed over there from his office and just gave him an update on anything federally that we're working on with FEMA, Bureau of Reclamation, things like that, giving him updates and asking for assistance on a couple of different items from his office that he can help move along and get us updates on at the federal level. And that concludes my report.
Thanks, Abby. Okay, we'll move on to director's reports, communications. Let's start on this side. Director Jacobs.
Thank you. Got three things to report. First thing, I attended the Cal LAFCO conference as TUD's appointed representative to the local LAFCO commission. I attended with a couple other members, including the executive director at the Cal LAFCO conference. It was extremely informative, and it really increased my appreciation for the role that LAFCO has. And one of the things that stood out to me was, as a LAFCO commissioner, the LAFCOs consisted of county members, city of Sonora members, and special district members, of which we're one. But it was emphasized how that the LAFCO commissioners, although they represent other appointed, they have various appointed agencies, they are responsible for looking out for the interests of every citizen or every person, man, woman, and child in the county. So when we're on the LAFCO commission, we need to take off our respective hats and put on the hat of what's going to be best for every person in the county. So that was kind of eye-opening. One of the presentations at the Cal LAFCO conference that was frankly disturbing was there was a presentation given by the County of Butte regarding the Paradise Fire. 84 lives were lost. Most of them were elderly and disabled. And LAFCO and the special districts within the county played a extremely vital role in managing the catastrophe and dealing with the aftermath. They emphasized the safety element that Butte County had developed, or the Butte County LAFCO had developed, and recommended that as a model for any other agencies that might have an interest in trying to prevent things like that from happening. So wanted to point that out. Secondly, the LAFCO meeting yesterday at the County Board of Supervisors office, it was presented, the housing element was presented, and it was encouraged that any agencies like ourselves avail ourselves of the housing element report. Now that report is 225 pages. I requested that they provide a summary that would be a little more adjustable for us. But the bottom line, the comment period for that is due in mid-December. So it's something that we staff should take a look at, and if we have comments to pass those along. And then the also attended a CSDA conference, and a couple of things intriguing about that. One was the planning horizon. There are a lot of districts that have 100-year planning horizon, and that intrigued me because I think, in my own case, I've got my youngest grandkid is 10 months old, and the oldest is 14. So just 50 years. He's going to be 51. The oldest is going to be 64, and I can't imagine what Tuolumne County is going to look like when they're that age. So I think it'd be we might want to increase our planning horizon to be prepared for what they're going to have to be faced with when they're around. So at the leadership conference, they had 4 modules. So by taking 4 modules, I received a special wall suitable for framing certificate leadership, special district leadership. The 4 major items were governance foundations, setting direction and community leadership, the board's role in finance and fiscal responsibility, and the board's role in human resources. And it was quite informative. I was humbled by the responsibilities that I face as a board member. It was quite eye-opening. So thank you for your time.
Hey, Director Balin?
Thank you. I have nothing to report, except I want to remind folks to attend, or if you haven't registered already, go ahead, please contact Melissa, and that is the Mountain County's event that's on November 16th, which is just a couple of days away, and it's up in Placerville. I know a few of us are going, but that is also your opportunity to reach out to your legislative advocates at that time. And also you have a whole lot of people there that are just like us that have gone to these kinds of things. And so it's a really good opportunity to begin networking. And we're having the speakers, which I found really interesting. I just wanted to emphasize the program is regarding water use efficiency standards, aging infrastructure, and the 30 by 30 California and forest management. So all the districts in the mountain region are really doing what Don's doing, and they've done this now for about 10, 15, sometimes 20 years. Because they know they're going to burn, and they know that the watershed management and the Forest Service lands has a lot to do with the health of the water, as well as our interface with building so next to the forest, et cetera. So the 30 by 30 is 30% of California will be put in some kind of conservation, whether through tribal partnerships or others for biodiversity and fire protection as well, by 2030, which is only less than 7 years away. So I know the tribes are very interested in this and have met with Wade Crowfoot on what this really means. And so we're hoping that this on Thursday will be explained to us a little more, and that includes nature-based, using nature-based systems management. So that's it for me. And I know I'm attending, and I just would like to see everybody's face there as well. Okay, that's it for me.
Thank you, Director Balin. Director Ringen?
Okay. On 11/4, I attended and participated in the 2Care fire insurance program at the fairgrounds, and that was quite an event. They had several really good speakers on various subjects about the fire issues here in Tuolumne County, as well as the insurance mess that we're in, where a lot of people getting dropped, and some of the big insurance companies aren't even writing anymore home insurance here in the area. So I think the one speaker that really stuck out in my mind was Senator Brian Dolly, and he was just brutally honest that nothing's going to change with the insurance situation anytime soon, because the insurance commissioner, I can't think of his name right now, he refuses to allow the insurance companies to be able to raise their rates. And he's finally been told by Governor Newsom, to get it on. So, but he's got a whole year, and by that time he's gonna be on to something else. Apparently, this is why he doesn't want to get blamed for the insurance companies getting an increase, and so he must be wanting to run for something else once he's timed out. So anyway, that it also gave me a chance to poke my finger in the CAL FIRE head person who also gave a talk. And my question was, well, first I'd made the announcement that TUD had at our expense and trouble and time, we were getting very close to getting fire water drafting points installed throughout the county along the ditch system. And I said, so what is it going to take for CAL FIRE to get weaned off the fire hydrants and start using raw water? Because I said, if you have to fight a good sized fire and you end up draining our treated water tanks, what in the world are we going to drink and use for sanitary purposes? So at any rate, it caused quite a bunch of talk. And on 11/9, yeah, I attended as I've already said, I attended the TUD wastewater committee as a stone on Zoom. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Ron. Director Boatright.
Thank you. Attended the wastewater committee meeting, very comprehensive explanation of the capacities and administrative fees and how they're developed and what we reviewed again here today. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. And I have nothing to report, so that's it for me. Okay, Director Balin, you have one more thing?
Yes, I did. Yeah, just for the record, because I forgot to mention this too, but we attended, we both were in the water committee. And so I just want to say it for the record.
I guess one of us, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
Okay.
Director Jacobs.
Also, for the record, I was part of the wastewater committee as well.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, if nobody has anything further,